What's
Let's go.
happening, everybody? So,
Good to be
Tom,
back. Good to be back.
Russ is back from Europe after a very successful tour. He'll tell you more about that, but he got awards for his art, and so he's actually now experiencing a great deal of success, and we expect even more of that moving on. Because of his talents, abilities, but more so because of his spirituality, and we're using the gifts that that we got from God. I'm experiencing some less so, but a more moderate level of success again, which I always attribute to God for me, and then work ethic because it gives me the ability. And then just being able to sort of have that attitude, knowing that, when needs help, and then I'm going to also need to keep up my efforts to sustain things.
Yeah.
So one of the dangers, I think, about being a successful human being is that you can go off the rails if you get too euphoric about your success. So, I don't know if that could mean, Russ just got all these awards for going to Europe. And so you start to feel good. And it's not even about getting a big head. It's just getting so over the top, full of joy, that you no longer can think enough to be able to set yourself up for the next bit of success. And that becomes a danger. That's almost as dangerous as being down on yourself. So too dangerous to success, being down on yourself, and too high on things you accomplish. So I would say you want to celebrate things for a while, but then you have to rebalance yourself and get yourself to a position where you can attribute things to where they go. And for me, that's God. It always will be. And so I just look at that as just being almost like a roadblock where you hinder your own progress, because now you stop thinking that you have to actually improve or whatever. It happens with athletes. I don't know if it happens in the painting world or whatever, but you don't want to have that happen to you. You always want to be open to the fact that, okay, you celebrate, but I always like to say you put your trophy, you put your awards up on the wall, you attribute to it to where it needs to be.
Something that you said to me that I didn't even think about, and I don't know if most people do think about, but that feeling you get, and I think everybody knows that excitement, that feeling when something good happens to you or in your life and you really feel good about it. So I just took it as a good feeling. But you kind of made me realize that you can't get too high on yourself, which we all do at that moment, and like you said, it distracts you from actually doing anything else that day or maybe a couple days because you're so excited, and it prohibits you from moving forward. And I always took that as like a good feeling, but it's a good feeling, but you allow yourself to get too high on yourself. And I didn't realize until you said, like, that's actually an attack. It's a negative. Maybe you can elaborate why that's not just because it distracts you from being productive.
Because it's an emotion. And so when we're talking about emotions are come in all kinds of shapes and forms, and there's a very large range of them. So the two emotions that'll get you will be that kind of desolation that you feel when you're really down, or people say things and you take it to heart, or you don't have confidence in yourself and you're feeling kind of down and destitute about things. Well, that's a killer right there. So it's just like in a game, you miss a shot, or you have a turnover, or you make an error, or you strike out, you get down on yourself, that failure is going to continue. Well, when you get too high on yourself, it's the same thing. It's a very strong, powerful emotion, but that emotion now starts to rule your being, takes over your mind, and has you attribute things to you and not to your abilities that were given to you from a spiritual nature, or from efforts that you were good because you worked so hard that day, right? Which I attribute all that, the ability to work, the ability to have talent, I attribute to the spiritual nature of things. And so either way, it's taken away from your progress. You're not moving forward, you're staying still. And that is the problem with these types of emotions. You don't want to stay still. No matter what you achieved, you don't want to stay still. What we're not saying is that you should never take time to smell the roses. That's how we're not saying. We're saying that, you have to be confident. You get confident through achievement. right? And you get achievements through working for your goals. What we're saying here is continue to work to your goals. Don't let your achievements go too far, because it's like having a new car. Eventually you're going to wear off and you're going to have just an old car, right? So you have to continue to move forward. So emotions are good. Emotions are what drive. I'm very emotional. Like today it was euphoric. And it took me out of my game a little bit, and I had to like sit down and meditate about things to get myself rebalanced so that I can start working on the next thing that I'm trying to work on. So those are the two things, the danger. I don't know if that helps explain.
No, it does. I was just kind of in line with what you were saying about balance. And I just thought I'd give a little background to our conversation before, because I think to me, it was a profound point of view. Staying balanced, because I've had a lot of highs lately and some lows that we actually talked through. And staying balanced was the key. That trust in that divine, purpose.
I feel like, none of this stuff that we're talking about is easy. All right. So like staying balanced is not easy, because, people think I'm out of balance, and that happens a lot. and so I understand emotion, but I have a little bit more of an idea of what's actually happened to me. I'm more cognizant of what's going on. Like I know when something really happens good in my life, I understand what the outcome could be if I don't reel that in a little bit. Just like I know that what the outcome could be if you really get down, because everybody's in the world, and we're facing things together most of the time. And people look at other people and say they don't go through things. Yeah, certainly I'm one of the persons that I go through a lot of different things, a lot of range of emotions, probably more than most people. And so the only thing that I became pretty good at is dealing with them. I wasn't always good at that. I used to be a yeller, screamer, get mad. Not anymore. I kind of balance. I don't attribute things and things and how they affect me from what other people do, but how I perceive what they do. So the being balanced is just to kind of have that sort of self-perception about yourself. Look at yourself like somebody else by looking at you and say, "Well, I want to talk to this guy right now," because when you're in that euphoric stage, you might become like a little bit overconfident, start bragging about things, tell people things about you. Yeah, I'm doing really good. This will happen to me. That happened to me. I did this. I did that. And so, but you might hit a person at a time in their life when they're just struggling, and so it seems to them like you're bragging. And things like that, and that's going to turn some people off a lot of times. So I tend not to try to curtail all that kind of stuff, and so people sometimes take that from me as well. He's kind of cocky and doesn't really want to talk to me. No, just because this is how I'm feeling, and I'm trying to process things to keep myself balanced. And I don't need really a lot of accolades. I don't need people to affirm what I'm doing. I like it sometimes. It's a good feeling. But I don't necessarily need that, because, and just like I don't really pay too much attention to critics and people that sort of discredit things that I do, right, which we all get. So I just kind of stay balanced with myself, because I'm getting to the point where I'm understanding myself more, and I think that's important when we want to succeed, right? And so it's always good to look inward first. So whenever you have a problem, you're getting excited about things, take a look inward, see what's happening. Yeah. And then try to get an idea of what you're projecting out there, and then rein it in. We're not saying don't celebrate. We're not saying don't feel bad if something bad happens. What we're saying is don't let those emotions take over your being for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah. Well, and words are powerful, and I guess it matters how you talk to yourself.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because you talk in a motivational sense when you talk to people,
right,
naturally. But I think when you talk to yourself, it's a different tone.
It could be. That's one of the things I know. That's a good point. And I think, like, if you take, for instance, sometimes, at least I know when I was coaching high school softball up there in the middle, we run into this kind of situation a lot. So a girl would make an error, and then she would just get so down on herself because of what she's saying to herself inside, and that would lead to perhaps a bad at bat or maybe another mistake in the field. So the way I address that is to ask that particular player, I say, look, if it wasn't you, and it was your person who was playing first base made that mistake, what would you say to that person? What would you say to her? Would you say to her what you're saying to yourself? No. I would say, you could do better. You got this. That's what we need to say to ourselves too, because we don't. And then the other thing is, you got to understand that moment that something happens, that mistake happens, it's gone. And if you're going to be successful, you got to let go of that, or the emotion of that is going to ruin the rest of what you're trying to accomplish. And so, yeah, you're not going to forget about it, but you're going to understand that, okay, right now I can't correct it and do everything I need to do to prevent that from happening, but I can at least mentally do it. Mm-hmm. And then I'll see it as a coach and understand that we need to work on this. Most of the things that we have to work on with players have nothing to do with their physical ability and everything to do with the way they think. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing it's a mindset. That's the biggest thing we try to work on all the time. It's just that mindset of understanding that failures are going to happen. Understand that emotions based on failures and successes are going to happen. So if you hit 3 home runs in the game, and then you're all so excited that you hit 3 home runs up, and then the 4th time you get up, you strike out. Well, you shouldn't be surprised.
Right.
For a lot of reasons. Because, number one, you're so excited about things, you probably forgot to concentrate. I know I would be. If I hit 3 home runs in a game or whatever, you know what I mean? That's natural. But then after that comes the failure, and that's sort of the thing that brings you back to earth. And so if you're really a good player, you're thinking more about that strikeout than you are about the 3 home runs here. So you're kind of balancing your emotions out, knowing that you're not perfect. That's what this is all about. We're not perfect. And we're not perfectly good, and we're not perfectly bad. And these feelings, we always want these feelings. Everybody thinks, and this is a problem with I think life in general, and a lot of it says to why people get addicted to things. They want that same feeling all the time. We're not in the world to be in a continuously emotional state. We are meant to feel sad. We are meant to feel happy, glad, joy, anger, all that kind of stuff because of situations. Right? So to be totally human means, that we're going to feel that range. So if you actually feel bad because somebody dies, that you don't like it, you don't want to feel that way, but you feel that way because of the blessings and happiness that person gave you, that brought you that kind of elation, joy.
Right.
Then. So that means that's actually a blessing, that you feel sad that you love the person that much.
It's a good point. If you hadn't had those positive feelings, you wouldn't feel so bad.
No, and that's why people become afraid of relationships, because they don't want to actually commit to that kind of emotion, because they don't want to be hurt. Or maybe they got hurt before. And it's not just, that's, it's a lot to do with life, not just sports, but just success in general, is being able to bend and understand that that you're going to have this range of emotions. And other people are not responsible for your emotions, and you're not responsible for regulating theirs. So if somebody says, "Oh, you make me so mad," you really don't. They make themselves really mad.
Right.
And I had to learn that the hard way, because I was prone to anger there for a while. And then so they're not making you angry, you are. What you attribute to it, generally speaking, I would say the thing that gets in the way there would be pride. So if you can generate some humility about it, which I had to work on, it's
there's a transition
right,
where you got to force yourself to look inside,
right,
for a while.
And I think that's what we're talking about with these. Whenever we're down, we go the opposite. So the energies are always the opposite of what you're feeling to get you out of that. So if you're feeling down, you have to go opposite energy, and that's when you start to really talk to yourself. Well, I did this and I did that, and you're talking to yourself. That gets you out of that desolation. As far as the other emotion, which can destroy you, would be that very powerful elation emotion, that you like that feeling so much you don't want it to go away. So you don't do anything to stop it, but you have to, and because that'll get you back in balance, so you can be more successful. So what you have to do then is put the humility hat on. and say, yeah, you know what, you know, I really did good, but there was a time when I really screwed up this, you know, this painting, and then, you know, where I painted the wall and the guy didn't like it, or like, you know what, I really screwed up when I made the wrong call. Like there was a situation where we lost a game this year up at Middle because I kept having everybody steal, and one girl got thrown out the home, and if I would have let her on base, the next girl got a hit, we would have tied. So I made some coaching mistakes. Right, so I use that. I'm like, yeah, you know, you're good at things, but you still did that.
Keep that in the back of your head.
You still did that. You're not that good. There's still areas you need to improve, and so you want to stay balanced, just so you can be effective, effective teachers. And I think when you use humility as a way of attracting other people, I think you become more attractive. People think, well, if they know that I'm not, if I make mistakes, then, you know, well, no, because then they understand what the process is more, because they can see that even pros make mistakes. It's like I was talking to a golfer and a guy up at the range, and he was telling me, like, you know, everybody watches golf, but it would be better if they showed the middle of the road golfers that are shooting like they're pros, but they're shooting in like 81 or 79, which for us would be great, but not for a pro golfer. And they're not showing those kind of people and the kind of shots they're making.
Yeah.
The only thing they show are the guys that are atop, that are perfect, and we all think we're going to be that.
Right.
But even those guys, they'll show them when they make a bad shot, if it like messes up the round. They're in first place, now they make a bad shot. But they won't show them if they're having a bad day. So they won't show like somebody like when Tiger Woods was really good. They wouldn't show him if he wasn't in the top.
Right.
Because and so that would help us, because we would be like, all right, so everybody goes through this struggle. And so they got to get back to work. You know what I mean? And so, you know,
if you're not losing, you're not learning.
Right. You know, and I feel like that those kind of elation emotions can also lead to other destructive behaviors that we sometimes see in athletes, and pro athletes, and things.
Behaviors.
Yeah, just behavioral things that they get involved in stuff that they shouldn't get involved with because they got the euphoric feeling and they're just trying to stay up
like
there.
Invincible.
Yeah, and then things come your way. Things come your way that are false, and you know what I mean. Unless you're staying balanced and on the ground and understanding what's good, what's right, what's good for you.
I think that's like, I guess you could say temptation kind of sets in, and you know, if you're not grounded, you're not, you know, you're probably more prone to falling into that temptation. And maybe, you know, I don't have an addictive personality, but maybe that's what happens to people.
Yeah, I think it does. I do have a sort of an addictive personality, I would say, but I get addicted to other things like success. I get addicted to like sports and trying to do well, and I did that my whole life. Yeah. But my brothers went the other way, where they got involved in drugs and alcohol and things like that, and things didn't go well for them.
No, and you were kind of born with a chip on your shoulder.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. I don't know how your brother was, but
the chip that's on my shoulder, my wife says, makes that out. It's not really a chip. It's really fear, is what it is. It's not the chip that's up there. It's fear, and that's fear of that I was never going to equal up and be good to because of my circumstances. So it's a chip that I use that can turn destructive sometimes, because it's sort of like, you know, once you get to a point where you accomplish things, well, it's time to let go, man. It's time just to kind of be sort of like balanced out and happy where you are. And so my problem is my chip used to make me want to just run over everybody and dominate people, and that's not a good way to make friends. Although some people like it because everybody likes to win, but I just don't. You know, I still have it, but I'm trying to be more balanced out. It's not something. It's not something about myself that I'm actually that I'm proud of. That I'm trying. It has nothing to do with anybody that encounters me. And it more has to do with me than them. Right. Like, it has nothing to do with, like, I don't like you. It's just that my mentality has always been, is how can I beat this guy? What do I have to do to success? And not looking at you as a threat, just knowing in my world that everybody competes. And so now
Yeah.
They're next, so not always win, but that's the problem that I have, and can't look at the world that way, and I have people tell me that, but it's got me here.
Yeah, and it kind of goes along the lines of what I was asking earlier about when you have such a strong conviction or divine purpose, you feel like dealing with general population in the masses.
Well,
allowing that to affect you, like everyone else's mindset or their beliefs.
I think just dealing with just the general, I guess, crowd.
Yeah,
people tend to stay in groups and where they're comfortable. Me, I like to be where I'm uncomfortable. So I spend a lot of time alone, and everybody would take that to mean that like I'm unsociable. I'm really not. It just depends on who it is that I'm going to be sociable with. I don't want. I mean, because I'm very. Not that I'm looking down on somebody. It's just that if you're not somebody that holds the same kind of ideas, values, conceptually, and I don't mean political. I'm talking about just in general. I don't really care what you do, what your persuasion is, but just in general. Then I'm not really going to look to befriend you. Right. And so like if anybody that says, well, you should have a lot of friends, well, that's just a fallacy because you really don't. Right. And you could have a lot of people that can admire you, or they might like something about you, and everybody goes through this, and it's different. No matter what you're successful at, what you're good at, you're always going to have that where people are there, and then they're going to be sort of placing judgment on you, but that judgment may be nothing but jealousy and envy that's sort of misplaced and coming out in an arrogant fashion. So instead of saying, well, maybe I can get something out of this person, so I know people that are better at things than me, well, I want to spend time with those people that are better than me at things that have accomplished more or equal. I want to know the way they think. I want to know how they sustain themselves, especially if it's somebody like you that's better at something and successful at things that I'm different at. I want to learn about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't look at that as being threatening. So I think if you're going to be successful, don't look at other successful people as threats. Right. View them as resources, right? So everybody goes, well, that guy who walks around, he dresses well, and he acts like he's... Well, that's because he is, and he's accomplished things, and he knows that, and he's not being cocky, but he's a confident person, and he has a lot of things that if you would talk to him about it, he's probably really kind. And I think I fall into that category too. But I'm not going to reach out to you. I'm going to look at the way you behave, and I'm going to make an evaluation, not a judgment, because I have standards and boundaries, and say whether or not I want you to be in my circle. Mm-hmm. So what I tell people with that is to become the CEO of your life. You let who comes in. People just don't come in unless you're emotionally attached to them. So they don't come in unless you decide as a CEO, I'm going to hire this person and let them into my life. Everybody should do that.
Yeah,
right. And it's not that. Listen, you could be very good at somebody, but we're just not hitting it. Well. I don't have to let you in, and you can do the same with me, because we're not hit. That doesn't mean that everybody that you don't let into your circle is a loser. It just means you're the CEO of your life, and so you want to do things the way you want to do them, and you approach things in a certain way. Well, you can let who's going to be into your life, and it's not like you need to run around being dangerous.
Right. It's a great way to look at it.
You just don't have to run around being dangerous or judgmental. You just have to be, I tend to stay by my side. I tend to be quiet. I tend nowadays, unless I really like it, I become talkative. But generally speaking, I'm just looking. The battle is for me. The battle is for me to improve. The battle is for me to get better. The battle is for me to take with me wherever I want to get better also. Whatever it is. Not that I think I'm perfect, but I'm looking to get better. And if you are not,
Right.
then I don't really have too much use for you, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just looking to just live your life out, all I know is like eventually we're going to be gone for a long time, and I know we're going to a better place. But while we're still here, we were told to use all our gifts. We were told to improve our lives, no matter how old you are, to continue to grow, whether that's in wisdom, thought, what you read, what you think. I feel like that's the purpose. And so anybody that's not doing that and is going to spend time talking about other people that are trying to do that, I don't need you. You're going to sit there and talk about the people that are winning in a bad way. I don't really need you, and I know you're going to do the same thing when I'm not there.
Right.
And so the CEO says, you know, you're just a blur in the crowd.
Right.
You're just like the crowd. You're just like the person at the basketball game. You're concentrating on the players on the court because you really like them. They're going to help you get better. And that's the guy sitting in the crowd who's telling everybody how bad the guys are out there playing or doing.
Right.
You're just a blur. You're just a blur and nobody's paying attention. They go and they put you on there, and we're sitting there going,
What's that?
you know, you're looking at the TV and you're
Right,
going,
right.
okay, look at the guy in the red shirt. He just keeps on yelling things. And then you're sitting there.
Right.
And
No
the
effect on the game.
Nah, no effect on the game, but he's like, everybody that's out there is horrible. And he knows what everybody's doing.
Right.
So why do we want to be involved with that guy?
True.
I want to be the guy out there actually trying to do it, and then be the person that has abilities to help them do that better, or let that person that's out there help me do it better.
Right.
Either way.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person sitting in the crowd like this with the other guy, you know, dressed like a Viking or something.
I'm being on his face.
Telling, you know what I mean?
Beer in his hand.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then criticizing everybody. You don't want to be that. We want to be the guys that are out there being productive. We're coming in, we're in and out. Look, man, you come in there, you have some value, man. We just had a nice conversation because I'm sitting in the stands, you're running the business. Wow, man, that's pretty cool. Why are you so passionate about that? I got one thing I took from you because I just met you. I love you, man. Thank you. Good luck at your business. Hope you win all day. And that's what happens in the world. And then everybody goes, see, this is the real me. This is how I'm thinking. And everybody goes, well, you're obnoxious and you're rude. No, I'm not rude. I'm real. Why do you want to let somebody like that in your life?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
He haven't seen his feet in 15 years, and he's telling the guy out there how to run. See this one? That's got something going on. This one here, you know what happened in your life? Like, we're the coach. We're going to go.